Thank you for attending the virtual roadshow, and I'm talking to Songezo Masiso from MTN.
Good day, conference delegates. Thank you to the organizers for inviting me, for inviting us as MTN to be part of this session. I believe it's the first one, so really well done to the organizers for putting together, and wish you all the best on the next ones.
MTN Business is very excited about today's experiment. We're using 5G. What we would like to demonstrate here is our thought leadership, both from an IoT perspective as well as from a network perspective. And today we're actually showcasing how we can use this in the automotive industry.
This is the first time we demonstrate 5G e-mobility in the continent, not just in South Africa. So clearly I'm a little bit tense, but at the same time very, very excited.
Ericsson has partnered with MTN on the road to 5G, as MTN is the leading operator in Africa. Ericsson as the leading technology firm, that makes complete sense.
Seeing the first application of 5G is in the safety features of the car, so that it's able to recognize what's around it and can help you take preventative measures to ensure your safety.
It is critical that you actually have got very limited latency and you can send accurate information across the network. The driver will actually be using virtual reality and dependent on the network to drive the car. That is going to be a real test of both the network and IoT, and I wish the driver best of luck.
My professional driving career started about 15 years ago when I started as an instructor at Gerotech, basically training, advanced trading, high performance. I feel very excited to drive the blacked out car. We'll probably do around 40 or 50 kilometers an hour on the track.
Being a passenger in a car that's completely blacked out, or being a passenger with another driver, is always a little bit scary. But I have full confidence in this 5G technology that the driver will be able to steer and go around the cones exactly as he would have done had he had full vision.
It is definitely a dangerous endeavor. I'm putting my life in the hands of technology, but I'm trusting the guys. I believe that everything will work out 100%.
Today is really a milestone for us as MTN. Our promise to our customers is always to make sure that we bring, cutting-edge technology, and today is evident to that. We're the first mobile company to be testing 5G in this establishment. It's all about speeds, making sure that we bring internet to our customers at very high speeds.
What IoT means for Africa is that it's going to give visibility to remote assets that are out in the field. They could be very far away. You could be monitoring pipelines. It can help with safety features.
There are tons and myriads of other things you can do with 5G. I see tremendous potential in Africa. This is where the world is heading. This is the future.
Songezo, please can you give us an overview of 5G and what it means for the country as a whole, but in particular for the SMME sector?
Ladies and gentlemen, I was requested by the organizers to really talk about how 5G can turbocharge our businesses from small and medium enterprises. As a person who's in charge of small and medium enterprises at MTN Business in South Africa, it's a space that I really understand in terms of the industry, but I'm really being requested to talk about the technology. And allow me your time, a little bit of your time to just talk about that. Firstly, I'd like to just answer the main question that probably many of us, maybe we've not heard about this or we've not experienced 5G. Questions that we ask ourselves: what is 5G really, and how and where does it come from? Probably the evolution. So I'm going to be talking about that, and then probably you'll see maybe one or two slides while I'm talking that talks about that. So let me talk about 5G first. So the simple definition, 5G is the fifth generation in terms of the mobile wireless network. We come from a 4G, or we are in 4G by far in many of the markets in worldwide, including South Africa. So allow me then perhaps then to take it from the top and just take it as if we don't know the background, and maybe some of you have seen this before. So let me talk about the evolution a little bit in trying to get to what is then really 5G. So if I talk about the evolution, it started all the way in the 1980s when we had 1G. And really 1G was connecting at speeds of about 14.4 kilobits per second. You heard me right, 14 kilobits per second. Unbelievable where we come from. That's basically what we had at that time, 1980s. And basically what we could do with that technology, we could do analog voice calls, a little bit of mobile connectivity. We then moved in the 1990s and we moved into 2G. And 2G was 20 times improvement from 1G, gave us 300 kilobits per second. So even at that time, we were still at kilobits per second. At that time, we were able to do your digital voice calls. Text messaging came into play at that time, and a little bit of basic data services that we could do at that time. So those are the 1990s. And many of us, if those that are young, like myself, were 3G. I think we were probably at the ages of maybe tertiary schooling or even starting to work. Then that's when 3G came in. And really 3G came and changed the landscape, like how 5G is probably changing the landscape or about to change the landscape. 3G changed the landscape completely because then with the evolution from 2G to 3G, now it was 140 times faster than 2G. Now we started to see speeds like 42 megabits per second. Now that is super fast. Of course, at that time, and I still remember back in the day, I was joining one of the telco networks, and we're using PCI MCI cards, those cards that slot on the side. For those that are probably my age, and those that are much younger, they probably don't know the PCI MC card. And that's how we used to connect on 3G. And everyone wanted this card. And those that are much younger, then they will know a dongle. So later in the years, you have a dongle, and later on, you have these Wi-Fi or MiFi devices, and all of us are using Wi-Fi connectivity probably in our homes. And that was 3G. And with 3G, we could do mobile broadband. Now, this is the birth of mobile broadband. Now, through mobile broadband, we could now do a lot on probably YouTube video stuff. We could watch a couple of YouTube video stuff. We could do a couple of things on the internet that we're probably never able to do. So mobile broadband was introduced. Smartphones were introduced because then smartphones could then use this wonderful technology, which is 3G. Fast forward in the 2010s, around 2010, we then had 4G. Which is basically what we're on now. So we're now 11 years into it on 4G. 4G came in 24 times faster than 3G, giving us speeds of 1 gigabyte per second. Basically, also leapfrogging to come into 5G. But this is saying up to 1 gigabit. So you still could get some 4G networks that could give you 1 gigabit per second on a network. But of course, it doesn't start at 1 gig. On 4G, you start to experience at least maybe 140 megabits per second. Those are the speeds, very good speeds, but up to 1 gig. Of course, 1 gig is probably on 4G is probably in a very, very densely and smaller environment. You don't really experience 1 gigabytes on a public 4G network out there. You don't get that from a 4G perspective, but it can get to up to 1 gigabits per second. Then come in 2020, which was basically last year. Like ourselves, MTN, we launched 5G. And basically 5G is what the topic is about. What is then 5G? So 5G is basically this enhanced mobile broadband connectivity. It's wireless for industry, basically. Changes the landscape totally, right? And 5G will definitely give us at this minimum 1 gigabits per second. So remember on 4G, I said it can get up to 1 gig, but you rarely get that on a public network. As I said, you probably get about 140 megabits per second. But on 5G, minimum, you get 1 gigabits per second. and then you get, and then up to about 10 gigabits per second. Now that is super fast. If you bear in mind where I said the evolution started in the 1980s, and I said, believe it or not, 14.4 kilobits per second, that's what we were getting at that time, to now be at the speeds of 1 gigabits per second. That is a super fast. And I'll talk about the benefits just now as to what does this mean from a benefits perspective. But really that is what 5G is. So it's really a fifth evolution network, wireless network. So it's really mobile networks are deploying this network. We have launched ours probably 3 years ago, actually. That's when we started talking about 5G. I still remember you might have seen I'm sure you've seen the video. I'm sure there's a video that I requested that we played, a video that talks about a driver driving with a VR on and not seeing where he's driving, but using 5G technology to actually drive the car. That was 3 years ago when we actually, as MTN, tested the 5G technology, and we eventually commercially launched it this year. So quite exciting times, and I'll talk about that just now when we talk about the benefits. Now let me talk about a little bit about the benefits now of why this is important. Why this is important for you as a small medium enterprise industry. So let's talk about the benefits a little bit. So firstly, from a capacity perspective, I indicated that 5G is 10 times more faster than 4G, right? So firstly, then from a capacity perspective, 5G is going to give us much higher speeds. And 5G will give us speeds that we call it fiber-like services. So no longer when you as an SME think about faster connectivity, you only think about fiber, as in the physical cable. Right now with 5G coming into play, it's going to give us those type of services that you get on fiber. In fact, even better sometimes. Sometimes you find that the people who are going to connect on 5G add 1 gig because you could buy a fiber link sometimes at even a 20 meg, a 40 meg, 100 meg, and we know how expensive that is, in the market. So even buying 100 megabits per second line on fiber is quite expensive, even on broadband. But I think access to this technology, access to faster speed at a much lower cost is what this 5G is going to give us as a benefit. That's the first thing, which is what I mean by fiber-like speeds. This is going to give us really on connected devices, massive Internet of Things. What I mean by that is you start to then see smart agriculture. We'll start to see smart cities that are coming to play. Very important. Very important for the economies, very important for this economy in South Africa and like other economies in the world, what this is going to do for us. Lower latency, very important. So what this is going to bring, lower latency, very important. Let me give you an example what I mean by that. In 4G, today we experience what we call about 23 milliseconds latency. So latency in simple terms, it's the delay. It's the delay of the data. When for argument's sake, I'm talking on a virtual platform right now, presenting to you this data I'm talking on when it's uploaded to wherever it's uploaded to a server, and the server responding back to me. What is the delay? So on 4G, it's actually 23 milliseconds. Ask me the question what it is on 5G. 1 millisecond. So that's a huge jump from 23 milliseconds to 1 millisecond. What does it mean then? It means then we can now realize things like, or industries or businesses or business models, which are like remote mining or remote factory. So you can manage your factory remotely. This is why now we talk about driverless cars, because with such a small delay, cars can communicate to each other. Practically, in the past, you could not deliver driverless cars because of 23 milliseconds. 23 milliseconds, it is long for a car that's moving at 100 kilometers an hour, right? You can imagine even worse at 160. So think of a driverless car driving on a freeway at high speeds. 23 milliseconds is quite long for that car to react when there's something. To react to another car next to it, or a car in front of it, or another car behind it. Right? But with 1 milliseconds, right, as a latency, Now we can experience driverless cars, because now the cars can actually talk to each other, can actually sense each other, how far they in 1 millisecond. Now that is now in real time, practically in real time. So those are some of the benefits that we are going to get with 5G. And last but not least, reliability. Critical services such as smart health. You will now start to see doctors doing surgeries remotely, using, for example, using the virtual reality technology. So virtual reality will be a thing of the future, basically, in 5G. So a doctor would put in the VR as you've seen it. There will be another doctor on the other side. The doctor will be performing a surgery remotely, right? Working obviously with the other doctors on site, because they can actually see what's happening in real time, as if they're actually in the room, like other services that we'll experience. Those are some of the enablers, or some of the important things that are key for 5G. Why 5G is important. If I move on a little bit and maybe touch on slightly on another part in terms of, because I've touched now on what is 5G, what's the difference between 5G and what came before, and what are the benefits. Let me maybe talk about how relevant is 5G to you as a business, to you as an SME, especially post the COVID environment. And I also want to talk about how you as a small business can use 5G. And I'm probably close to conclusion now, because I don't want to take too much time. It's a very simple topic. So if I talk about this next topic, or this next part, and talk about what are the things that are important that 5G is going to help you as a business, or what are the scenarios, or what we call call use cases. What are the use cases that are there, right? So 5G, as I said, is a 5th generation, but I think more than 5G, what's also important to note that 5G is a platform. 5G will create platforms. I spoke about a couple of things: driverless cars. I spoke about smart cities, smart mining, smart factories. So managing your businesses remotely. So basically, automation is going to become a thing of the future. What sometimes is called artificial intelligence. So automation is very important. It's going to be very, very important. Or controlling factories remotely. That then brings about new industries, if you like. So let me talk a little bit about some of the common use cases that we're going to be seeing, and why is it important for you. We'll start to be seeing in the short term services such as your wearables for crowd management. So think about the devices that we all wear today, some of us, when you're training, the wearable device. These wearable devices will become a tool that can be used in the future with 5G, because again, real time. Because these wearable devices, the watches, the smart watches, when you're running, they'll actually give real-time data. For an example, the police or any institution can then use these wearables for crowd management. How powerful is that? So that's one. Smart CCTV is going to become in the future. Now, please note, you need to identify yourself as a small medium enterprise. Where will you fit in? In some cases, you're probably not going to fit in some of the services I'm mentioning, but you probably need to develop yourself to get to those stages. And I'll talk a little bit about that and which areas probably you could develop your business and the business models to get to that stage. Smart CCTV, probably something that's really coming. Again, based on real time. The fact that you can have real-time data that's coming at that 1 millisecond is quite important. I spoke about virtual reality. Virtual reality for business, I spoke about it from a smart health context, but virtual reality even from a gaming perspective. You won't believe, and sometimes we think about gaming as a game. Gaming is a game for kids, but actually gaming is a big business. It's a huge business, and we need, as small medium enterprises, to actually know about this thing so that we can see what value chain what part of the value chain can we play in. Because I definitely think there is an opportunity somewhere in that value chain, as gaming as it is, because then if you are in the IT services, you probably need to develop programmers. Because I can tell you now, a lot of IT programmers are going to be needed, because they are the ones who need to develop applications, who need to develop the APIs, anything that needs to integrate into all of these devices that need to talk to each other. these big businesses, they need younger people, they need the youth to develop these platforms or develop these applications to be able to integrate into such services. So I'll talk about a little bit of not everything about in terms of these use cases. So sensor monitoring, very important. So now sensors are going to be important. What we call in-store digital signage. Companies like ourselves as MTN, we've got MTN stores throughout. Today, we do a lot of signage in those stores, and the signage is more physical than anything. Think about the future. We must be moving to the stage of using digital signage, in-store digital signage. But where are we going to need those services from? We will need them from small and medium enterprises. So the small and medium enterprises need to learn this technology. They need to understand, what is this in-store digital signage? How do I come in and play in this value chain? And you need to then develop your business, develop your skills to get to that level and be able to service and be able to go in and service large enterprises like MTN and many others as well in the industry, in the market that we operate in. In vehicle entertainment, I think I spoke a little bit about that because firstly to be driverless cars, but more than that, it's a thing of the future where you see the entertainment in the vehicle, where there will be integration of services in a vehicle. It will be a thing of the future. Cloud-based management, drones is coming in as quite also an important one. Drones for delivery. So if you think about it, if you're in the courier services, you need to gear yourself, your business, to be able to be a business of the future, as an example. Because there are many small and medium enterprises that are in the courier services. You need to then gear yourself to say, how do I transform my business to be ready for when drones are a thing of the future? Of course, drones cannot carry everything. Drones will probably carry the small parcels. It does not mean that it will kill the courier industry or the transport industry, as it were. But rather there will be a space for drones to be able to deliver services, because again, it's real time. Someone can control a drone via the VR and can be able to deliver the services anywhere. And I spoke about the VR. From a medium term perspective, so I said short term, those are some of the areas. From a medium term perspective, then we start to see smart cities. I spoke about that. Very important. Smart cities, we all live in these cities. When these smart cities are being developed, what role are we going to play as small medium enterprise? We need to then gear ourselves, learn new technologies, as I said, learn new skills to be able to supply. Smart cities are going to be built by municipalities by far. Metros are going to play a role. Metros, municipalities. So therefore, we need to be the ones, as small and medium enterprises, to raise our hand. We need to go in and partner with the technology providers. I'm not talking about the telco providers. I'm talking about the companies that will bring the technology, the devices, the actual devices that are going to be deployed for smart cities. We need to go and raise our hands and go to those companies and say, I would like my business to be, the skills in my business to be developed in your area, so that I can be your partner in my local municipality to be able to supply the services to a municipality that needs to build a smart city. That is a practical example I can use for you. How you do that, you will find ways. Google research, do your research, but in the most simplest way. It means there's an opportunity. So when someone has to build a smart city, they need technology to build into high buildings and so on. You need to be there. I spoke about from a health perspective, so remote patient monitoring is going to be a thing of the future because it's in real time. You can remotely monitor the organs of a patient. A doctor can minister to the patient whatever advice they need to do in real time because of 5G. So precision farming. So farming, I spoke about agriculture. It's quite important. So agriculture is quite important. Tourism is going to be important. From a virtual, think of it. I could tour Paris, but I would tour Paris in a virtual manner. I could actually see what's going on in Paris right now with 5G. Either using a VR device, and I can actually see. I don't need to be there physically. Doesn't mean that people will stop moving around or flying into these countries, but at least you get a first hand of seeing what's actually happening in Paris or London or whatever the case is, anywhere in the world. Those are top of the services. But again, the public needs services. The public will need these VR services. The public would need the platforms. Someone needs to develop the platforms. Someone needs to bring the services to the consumers. And that's where we come in as business. small businesses to actually bring those services. Wireless smart grids from a energy perspective, VR for telemedicine, I spoke about that. Smart hotels or smart roads are probably going to be a thing of the future. And then probably last but not least, let me talk a little bit about long term. Long term, I spoke about it, remote surgery. It's probably something that's definitely going to come in the future, right? Because again, of sensitivities, they probably need to make sure, from a health perspective, they need to make sure of those. They probably need to regulate it as well. But again, it is coming from a long-term perspective. Remote control of factories, I spoke about that. Robotics, you need to introduce robotics from artificial intelligence in the factories, and you need to be able to remote control them. 5G is going to enable us to do that. Connected robotics is also in the future. Self-driving cars, I spoke about that. So these are some of the, and I'd like to leave it there from in terms of what use cases are out there and how we come in as small enterprises. I gave you some of the examples, and the examples are no different. If I spoke about smart cities, how you can get involved, and I spoke about it at length because it's got relevance. We all live in a municipality. Because we stay there, and because we stay there and our business operates there, it makes sense to just approach the municipality and saying, I'm here to offer services because you need to build a smart city. They probably need to hear about the concept of smart city from us as small business before they actually hear from big business. How wonderful would it be that you are the one who brings the big business into a municipality to build a smart city, and not the other way around. Sometimes that we see that a big business wants to build a smart city for the municipality, and the municipality has to force the big business to give, let's call it 30% of the business to a small medium enterprise. And the big business has to now find the small medium enterprises. I'm saying how wonderful would it be that it's actually being led by us as small medium enterprises, and we bring the business to actually, because of knowledge, because of us upskilling ourselves for the future, for the 5G. So I think I'd like to leave it there. And I think these are some of the services that are important. They will be very important, especially post-COVID. We are all working from home. I'm doing this virtual presentation from home, and therefore mobile connectivity is going to be very important. For the consumer, for our businesses as small and medium enterprises, we need to gear ourselves, we need to upskill ourselves to ensure that whatever services we provide in the future are geared and are ready for 5G, so that we're actually relevant. I don't think there's anything in the future, whatever you are doing as a small and medium enterprises, that is not going to touch technology. Probably it is already today, but it's even going to be more so in the future. So you need to really, really gear yourself up as a business.
Well, thank you for that overview, Songezo.
Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate that you've listened to my small part, and I hope that it did make sense. And I really wish all the small medium enterprises who attended the session, all the large enterprises, large corporates that are here, and as well as organizers, all the best. Really stay safe amidst the pandemic that we're in, and really take care of yourselves. Thank you.
That was Songezo Masiso from MTN.